He did it again, didn't he?
You can't keep getting away with it!
Well, another Skyrim, another run. It's as it says on the title, can I beat Skyrim before the battery on my Switch 2 dies? Pretty self-explanatory, I must start a fresh save, that means cart journey and all, and defeat Alduin and Sovngarde before the Switch says goodnight. No speedrun tricks either, simply because I don't know any, and I figured it's more fun this way. I'm also recording this with my phone like the good old days of 2007. Sure, there were other ways for me to record this for better quality, but I figured, 1, this would be more stupid, and 2, this way, should the system kick the bucket, you'll get to see it in real time. Subscribe for more quality content. My reflection can be seen in earlier parts of the footage, and because I do not wish to show my face, I have blurred it when needed. If you're at all curious, I was once told that I looked like Jake Gyllenhaal in Prince of Persia, so do with that info what you will. Now with all that out of the way, let's begin. Speed's the name of the game, so you can imagine my frustration when I have to sit motionless for nearly 10 minutes until we can even get to the character creator. It was between Argonian and Orc today for Hist Skin and Berserker Rage respectively. In the end, Berserker Rage won out. Double damage for 60 seconds would make most tougher fights go by twice as fast, plus it would allow me to compensate for low damage. The argument for Hist Skin is that it essentially makes you invincible for a full minute with how fast that regen is, so I'd be able to tough out stronger foes. It wouldn't necessarily help with clearing out rooms faster though, so it inevitably lost to the Orcs' anger issues. More waiting, Alduin saves the day, and then it's business as usual. Playing Skyrim at 30 FPS again is certainly something. This console can run things at 120 for the record, so what's this 14-year-old game's excuse for not even hitting half of that? Anyway, I follow Hadvar, get some armor, then stab some Stormcloaks until I find myself a Warhammer and double down on my usual two-handed antics. I then pop Berserker Rage for the first time to clear out the final group of enemies, not because it was needed, but because I wanted to. I steal most of their belongings before sprinting for the exit. Freedom at last, and it's the Warrior Stone for faster gains, followed by a quick stop in the town to sell all of that junk. I then use the gold to buy as many iron arrows as I can. No, put your pitchforks down, this is not a stealth archer build. We're just using this to get a weapon that will be with us for the rest of the playthrough. Naturally, you would assume rushing off to Bleak Falls Barrow is the way to go to really book it through the main quest. Solid idea, but following the plot to the letter is going to end up with me at some point needing to venture off to get a better weapon, specifically for that first Alduin encounter. I can't really afford to die to him repeatedly, as that will waste a crap ton of the battery life. By running north of Riverwood and further still past Whiterun, we will eventually end up at Silent Moon's camp. I tussle with some of the bandits just so that I can loot a hunting bow from them, as it's ever so slightly better than the longbow from Helgen. I then continue north until reaching Labyrinthian. Patrolled by frost trolls, we ignore them and stick to the right hand side until we find this entrance to the Lost Valkig. Inside is a Draugr Deathlord who, no matter your level, will always have a two-handed ebony weapon, be that a sword, axe or hammer. Today he has the sword and how quick he is to demonstrate its sharpness on us. This is why we bought all of those arrows. Fighting him fair is nigh impossible at this level, even on Adept, as he one-shots us every time. Fortunately, this ledge here is easy to jump to, and once there, we can stay put and begin to let the arrows fly. He cannot reach us here, so he'll just awkwardly move around the room, or when we get real lucky, we'll stand completely motionless. He even loses sight of us somehow, resulting in free sneak attack bonuses from time to time as well. He occasionally will use the disarm weapon shout, but this is very easily nullified by simply unequipping the bow before it hits. I can then re-equip it and rinse and repeat. When on his deathbed, he runs for the door and leaves. Luckily, he doesn't get very far, so we can follow him outside and finish him off with a few swings for good measure. The sword may only do 5 more damage than the Iron Warhammer, but as it is a mid to late game weapon, it will begin to scale much better off perks from the two-handed tree, plus two-handed swords are faster than hammers to begin with, so that's another plus. OP weapon in hand, it's back to Riverwood, and from there, Bleak Falls. Wow, who would have guessed? The barely out of the tutorial enemies have no way to counter the Dragonborn when he runs in swinging a weapon that should not even exist in the world space for another 35 levels. Well, the giant frostbite spider did some damage, but that's mostly thanks to its poison, so it doesn't really count. As you might expect, to really put him in his place, that being back in the coffin, the end of dungeon boss gets slapped around with the Orc Rage just to be on the super safe side. Stone in hand, and more side ventures that surely won't come back to bite me in my green ass. This consisted of running the claw back to Lucan for 400 gold, this would be crucial for using carts to travel between cities to cut down on the time it would take to walk there normally, and then I ran off to White River Watch just outside of Whiterun for more bandit purging. You all know this cave even if you think you don't. It's the one that has Stevie Wonder on lookout duty. What we're here for is the big cheese at the top, or more specifically, his magical gauntlets that increase our big weapon damage by 20%. I raged all over him to take him out in just 2 swings. For the record, every time I get done clearing a tough enemy with rage, I then wait 24 hours to make sure it's good to go for the next tough fight. I could be doing that after every encounter so the power is ready for every single fight going forward, but I figured the waiting around would end up taking up more time in the long run. This is the last of the small amount of prep I wanted to do, so it's off to Whiterun to hand over the stone to Farengar and get ready to face down our first dragon. I tried using the bow, but my aim is atrocious, so I just have to wait till he's nice enough to land within stabbing distance. Thankfully, he does so within about a minute. As per usual, I give in to my and as a result, with a mix of a few heavies and some normal swings, can bring down the beast within 10 seconds, assuming we are not counting the takedown animation. As I'm absorbing the soul, I do a little posthumous pilfering and snag myself a Whiterun guard helmet. Not much, but every little bit helps. Goes without saying, I am sticking to light armor so I can keep up my speed. I could negate the speed debuff of heavy armor if I went out of my way to grab the Steed Stone, but after my 2 prior detours for the weapon and gauntlets, I didn't feel like I had any more time to waste. I speak with the Jarl continuing the story, then before leaving Whiterun via cart to Riften, as it's a straight easy jog west to High Hrothgar, I make sure to get the Blessings of Talos. Not super important, but it makes shouts recharge just a little bit faster, and that could be handy for keeping Alduin stunned with Dragonrend later on. The run there is mostly uneventful bar the odd wolf that wants one of my bones, but in return gets skewered for its efforts. I began employing the trick of sprinting until my stamina was empty, and then waiting an hour to have it refill, so I could effectively never stop running at full speed. More wolves on the way up the mountain, as well as the ever-present Frost Troll. He didn't stand a snowball's chance in hell this time around, I'm afraid. Got 1 hit off, but due to Berserker also making the user take half damage, I barely felt it. Feel like that's something I probably should have mentioned prior, but yes, while Berserker Rage is going, I also only take half damage. Orcs are busted. The Greybeards training may as well be an unskippable cutscene for the most part, although I can skip through some of their dialogue by running into them at full speed. At least they teach me Whirlwind Sprint, that will ever so slightly speed up travel time. Speaking of, to get to Ustengrav, I just fast traveled back to Labyrinthian and ran north from there. In retrospect, it would have been much faster to take the cart to Morthal, but oh well. Far from my last mistake, I'm sure. For example, I should be trying to book it past every non-mandatory enemy, yet here I am re-killing Draugr and skeletons alike without much care in the world. The smartest thing I do in here though is definitely grabbing the ethereal form shout. Sure, it's handy for when you want to negate fall damage, but best of all for us, while it's active, you don't lose stamina while sprinting, effectively doubling the time we can move at full speed for. No use for it in the rest of this dungeon, so I deal with more nightmare fuel before grabbing the Knot Horn and rushing back to Riverwood once more. Miraak, the evil bastard that he is, sends his men to waste more of my precious time with unimportant dialogue, so I make sure his messengers can't interrupt anybody else ever again. Meeting Delphine, she doesn't believe we can kill dragons, I say, I bet, and then proceed to flex on her by putting down the next one even faster than the previous. I also level up in the aftermath of the encounter, which allows me to pump even more damage into the weapon. At current, with Berserker Rage active, it inflicts 97 damage per swing. That is a lot for level 5. After getting the next quest, I realised the recording had been going for about 90 minutes, so I quickly head back to the home screen to check the battery life. It's at 47% already, so give or take, I've got about another 85 minutes to finish the run. Doesn't exactly fill me with a lot of confidence, but no time to think, we have a party to crash. You know the drill by now, cart to the city, and then shove everything I have down Malborn's throat, before then taking a second cart to the embassy. We get your man drunk and to make a fool of himself before slinking away to grab our gear, so that we may get to committing more crimes. It's against the Thalmor though, so it's all good. Majority of them are spell slingers, so they have little to no physical defense for us to worry about. Plus, once I make it inside the final building, one 60-second charge of Berserker Rage is more than enough to sweep through the remaining elves without breaking a sweat. That said, I did need the rage to survive this. Against magic users, I have 0 defenses, and at only level 5 with 150 hit points, I am quite brittle. Back to Delphine with the documents I forgot to mention, and then it's off to the sewers because no game is complete without a sewer section that next to nobody enjoys. More of the same from our previous outing, what with the Thalmor and all, only this time it's so dark I had to bust out the torch frequently. Yes, I could just crank up the brightness setting, but today that's not really an option, as I'm pretty sure it would drain the battery on the Switch even faster, and we're already pressed for time as is. You know, you truly don't realise how many times Skyrim forces unskippable dialogue on the player when compared to the rest of the series until you're against the clock. The inevitable chase video with the courier is going to be a nightmare in situations like this. I'm able to slice my way through the reinforcements and drag Esbern back to Delphine, where, thankfully, this will be our last return trip to Riverwood. While Esbern does like to go on and on about the lore of dragons, the developers seem to recognise that not everyone would want to listen to it all in repeated playthroughs, so on a few occasions you can talk to him and ask him to skip to the important details, which is nice. Cart to Markarth, and then I use the Ethereal Shout for extra air in my lungs, as well as allowing me to safely bypass any Forsworn or Frost Dragons on the way to Karthspire. Inside, it's only one Briarheart followed up by a little backup. Thankfully, we have some help of our own, even if it is not needed. The knot puzzles are easily breezed past. I then slice the worst part of my body to offer up as a blood sacrifice. Seriously though, why the palm? That's gonna be so uncomfortable for days. Once inside, I then nag Esbern a little more until he skips the history lesson, and then sets us on the path of getting Dragonrend. Of course, for quickness, I go to get the Elder Scroll before making my way to meet Parthenax. Grabbing the cube from Septimus was simple enough after getting dropped off in Winterhold, but I made another goof after the fact, although in my defense, I was trying to save time by doing so. Alright, so remember in the Skyrim Gifts and Rewards run where I used the dual strike power attack to ever so briefly clip through the door so that I could pull the lever and use the lift to immediately skip to the Elder Scroll? Well, I tried that again today, and for whatever reason, it just would not work. After a few minutes, I checked the percentage and it was already down to 20. So I made the decision to head back to Winterhold and start running towards the intended destination. Sure, it would be much faster to glitch my way through, but the risk of wasting too much time trying to get the glitch to work was also too great. At least this way wouldn't take too long, as I was just ignoring everything thanks to the ethereal form. I got through it in a relatively short span of time, so with nothing to lose, it was back to High Hrothgar, where I forgot about the stupid Greybeard initiation thing where I must wait around while they yell at me in tongues. As well as standing around even longer to learn Clear Skies, and Dragonrend, which is quite literally an unskippable cutscene as far as I'm aware. I ever so slightly readjusted the Switch during this as well, as I noticed the glare from the sun was getting a bit much. Just figured I'd bring that up in case it looks like the footage from here is aligned ever so slightly differently. Alrighty, first Alduin time. Potential run killer if I didn't play my cards right. There were 3 things I did to prepare for this fight. The first I mentioned earlier on, having the Blessing of Talos to make sure Dragonrend cools down fast enough so he never gets a chance to take to the skies. The second was the most basic, and that was just to make sure to have Berserker Rage ready to be unleashed as soon as he landed. The final one was to keep a level banked for the full restore that it gives you. This way I wouldn't need to waste time with a shopping spree for health potions. Altogether, this allows me to stand toe to claw with Alduin without much fear of him gaining the upper hand. I did have the annoying minor bug where sometimes the game won't let you use a Dragon Shout even after the cooldown period, which was briefly terrifying. It's why there are points here where you can see me just standing still doing absolutely nothing. I am in fact trying my darndest to fire off another Dragonrend, but the game is just saying no. After coming out on top of that fight with absolutely no issues, confidence was at an all-time high. For about 10 seconds before it dawned on me the Peace Council was up next. Now this was the run killer, more so than Alduin could ever hope to be. The amount of time wasted running to Balgruuf, then back to the Greybeards, then to Tullius and Ulfric, not to mention the council itself? From the moment Alduin retreated to the second council was over, took around 17 minutes. All the while, this kept popping up to taunt me. Back to Whiterun and trapping Odahviing and freeing him is straightforward enough, to which point it was off to Skuldafn with hopefully just enough time to spare. Well, I think we all saw that coming a mile away, am I right? Just like the chase runs, no retries or do-overs, as to me that just ruins the aspect of these time-based challenges. So no, I could not beat Skyrim before my Switch 2's battery died. Shorter video, yeah, but it was 90% just trekking through the main quest, so I didn't want to waste too much of your time going over things in detail. There will be at least one more video out before the end of the year. It's also a little stupid, but not so much for the run itself, but more so to do with a screw up on my end. You'll see. Regardless, that's going to be the end of the challenge video. If you enjoyed what you saw, consider giving the video a like. If you're interested in more challenges in the future, feel free to subscribe. I'm trying to run these videos out fairly frequently. My name's Nerbit, stay safe everyone, I'll see y'all in the next video.